Hi everyone, my name is Eloise and I'm honored to be here today. The Rotary Club of Baldwinsville has asked me to speak on my polio journey throughout my life. And I'm here with Ms. Martin, who is a member of the Rotary Club. I'm 76 years old, and I'm just honored to be here. Thank you. Well, as a baby, I wish I had remembered. I would have been able to talk to the doctors and tell them what I was feeling, of course. But of course, I do not remember. I guess my first memory was lying in my mother's bed because I had to do leg exercises. The polio affected my right leg. And at night, she would lay me on her bed with, I remember the lamp over my left shoulder and Mom doing the exercises on my right. And I was just told recently that by my older sister, that she would fill in and do the exercises sometimes as well. And that my older brother, Carl, was also there investigating and making sure that Laura did it correctly. But that was a quiet, peaceful time in my growing up, and that's the first memory I can recall as actually having the polio. I was told later in years by my mom and my older siblings that one night I was crying, just crying a whole lot, and pulling at my right ear and twisting, and also when I spiked a fever, they took me into the hospital, and that's when they diagnosed me with the polio. They sent me home and started me on an antibiotic routine, the aspirins, and then the leg exercises. Well, I didn't start walking till I was 2.5 years old. And I remember my brother telling me that even though I fumbled around and stuff, he would not worry about me so much because I was just a baby girl to him. And he was not concerned about it at all. But later on, he found out that I had polio. And at one point, my doctor gave me a brace on my right leg that was affected by the polio to help me walk a little better. And so I proceeded to walk it, and once I started walking, and probably by the time I was 4 and maybe on into my 6th grade, they started doing the surgeries on my leg to help me because I had a club foot that I had to have surgery on. My big right toe was curled, and they had to straighten that out. And then my last surgery that I can remember was when they stopped the growth in my good leg so that my right leg would catch up and I would be even. I wouldn't have such a bad difference in the length of my legs. But when I started going to school, I had skipped kindergarten and I went right into the 1st grade. And I remember, well, I was being scared to death for one thing, but I remember going out at recess, and the other girls and kids were playing hopscotch. And I sat there on the stairs, and I thought, oh, that looks like so much fun, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't jump rope. And one thing I do remember just recently is that I felt very bad. I thought, why is this happening to me? And anyway, I would pray at night, and say, please, let me get better so I can do things. And that was just one thing I remember. But they would also call me Chester because I had the brace on my leg. And Chester is, so you'd remember him, the old movie Gunsmoke.
Okay.
It was a Western, and this deputy was called Chester, and he walked with a limp. And so back then, Westerns were the big thing, cowboys and Indians, and they would call me Chester. And I thought, I remember crying about that. And my mom said, Don't let them talk to you that way. Don't let them belittle you. You hold your head up high. And so that helped me a lot. But I got through. I had, like I said, several surgeries. And when I had to go to the hospital once a week with my mom for therapies for the polio. They would put electrolysis on my leg and do that. They would put me in a jacuzzi tub, which is really quite relaxing. But the thing was, at that age, I was very shy. And I was embarrassed because I had to get in and out of the tub with just my underwear on. Hello. And also, I would put a gown on, a hospital gown, and I would have to walk in front of the doctors so they could see how I'm walking and my gait and everything. And so I'm walking away from them, and hello, my gown is open in the back. Anyway, that's some of the stuff I had to go through. One thing that was really bad for me was, I think it was my last surgery. I met this boy who was an iron lung. He was in one of those iron lungs. And he was a little blonde kid, and I would go see him when I could, and I had my wheelchair at the time, and I could go and see him. And one day I went to see him, and he was gone. He died. The nurse said he'd gone to heaven, and yeah, I was pretty upset about that, and I never told anyone about that. Mom and I kind of kept it to ourselves because we didn't want to scare my brothers and my one sister, but she came to spend the night with me that night at the hospital, and I just never forget that. And I'm so thankful that I could walk and I could get out of that wheelchair. And I wasn't paralyzed like a lot of polio children were. They were paralyzed. I mean, from their waist down, or the muscles around their lungs wouldn't let, the polio actually, it affects the nerves in the brain. And those nerves go to the different muscles in the body. And when the muscles weren't strong enough around that lung or the heart, it wouldn't allow them, So that's, I guess people know that now. You never know. I want to talk about when I was younger, in elementary school, and couldn't play hopscotch or jump rope and things of that sort. I would play with my brothers out in the backyard or underneath the pine tree in the dirt. We would play cards, and we would play marbles. And I was sort of a tomboy because of this, I believe. But I had a lot of fun with them. And my younger brother of 2 years, he recalls me falling on his toy Cadillac, and I dented the hood. And he says he wasn't upset, just a little upset, but he still has that Cadillac to this day. And he says he has my butt print on the hood. So, and I don't know if I should say that on camera, but that's what it is. And then, to mention my youngest brother, who's 4 years younger, Louis, he's the baby of the family. When I came home, they all knew I was in the hospital, of course, and my dad would drive us around in his car to the window where I was in the hospital, because in that time, if you were under 18 years old, you could not get into a hospital anywhere in Texas, anywhere in the nation, I would imagine. But Dad would drive them around to my window where they could wave to me and I could wave to them. So, But when I came home from that last surgery, my youngest brother, Louis, he was shocked, or I guess the word would be shocked. But I came home with a brace on one leg and a cast on my other leg, and I was in crutches. So he's pretty upset about that and distraught, and that's one memory he'll never forget. But all in all, I had a great childhood, and actually a good life. I've had my ups and downs. I've had my ins and outs, and I couldn't wear high heels and nylons to the prom and things of that sort, but I'm okay. I'm a survivor. I went to grade school in 1955. Oh, and that's when I started first grade. And that's actually when Jonas Salks, Salks, discovered the polio vaccine. And he helped to control the spread of polio. When I was just getting out of elementary school is when they had the sugar cube. I very vividly remember walking up the stairs at the auditorium in my elementary school, and the big red heavy curtains coming down and everything, but there was hardwood floors, and I clicked across the floor to get to my vaccine. And I was one of thousands of kids that had the polio vaccine at that time. My brother and older sister Laura and Carl, they also remember taking the vaccine. My younger ones, I'm not sure, they never mentioned it, but we all had it, and it was miraculous. I couldn't say much. Couldn't say more about it. How important it is that people do get the vaccine. I think they've kind of forgotten about it, like you might have mentioned. It's very important because you don't want to see your child in the iron lung. I'm sure they have something else these days, or paralyzed. There's different types of polio strains, I believe, and some was infantile paralysis, which was the first one, I believe. And Franklin Roosevelt started the March of Dimes because of that. And I forgot to mention that. When I was young, maybe 4, my primary doctor, they nominated me to be the March of Dimes girl on the poster. So I was accepted, whatever they do, and they were going to take photographs of me. But my dad said no, because they wanted to photograph me in my diaper just to show my leg and stuff. And he's like, no one's going to quote him, no one's going to showcase my baby doll in her diaper. So, but I could have been that March of Dimes girl. And I'm proud of that anyway. I do. I really do. I had a great childhood, and although I had the polio, I had my support group, like my family, my siblings. In fact, I talked to my sister just the other day, and she told me that she felt that because they didn't treat me like I had polio, and they didn't coddle me, and they made me be strong, and they said, don't let those bullies pick on you, and I'll take care of them, the boys, I'll take care of them. Not pick on my sister, because they would ridicule and they'd poke fun sometimes, not knowing what they were doing, but they were kids, so I think that has made me stronger, more resilient, more, even to this day, not as much lately, but there's still, kids look at you and I just smile and say hi, It has made me a stronger person, I think. When I wrote my story, I talked about being a survivor, and that part about the young boy, whose name is Eric, by the way, I'll never forget that, made me a survivor. And I'm going to fight this, and I'm going to get through it. And, my mom helping me, and my dad, of course. And he called me his baby doll. Anyway, yes, it has. I feel that way, and I feel strong about it. And I am not part of your question, but I'm so thankful that my 3 girls are here to support me and help me and get me through and take me to the doctors and things of that sort. And also my boyfriend Bob, I've been with him for 18 years. He's a wonderful man, and him and I are kind of, he's got his problems and I've got mine. And we kind of, help each other out. And when I first met him, I remember telling him, we're going to end up in wheelchairs together. Well, I'm in one now. It's his turn. Anyway, he's a great guy, and helps me through my sad times and through that, so. I never really realized that it would affect me. I wasn't really aware of it. I've suffered with polio all my life. Well, I didn't really suffer, but I've had polio, I've had to live with it all my life. And but here lately in my older age, like I said, I'm 76 years now, and about 5 years ago, actually in 2020, I fell and I broke my polio leg. I broke my femur, and it took me quite a while to get over that. I have 13 screws in that leg, and since then I've had a hip surgery because I'm favoring my left side, and one thing leads to another. Anyway, right now there's so much that's affecting me. I've been going to neurologists, and they have said that I do have post-polio syndrome. And basically, I have spinal stenosis very severely. In fact, the doctor called me personally on that, and he said I need to see a surgeon. And also I have cervical stenosis. Cervical, yes. And it's painful, and my legs are painful. It goes down, radiates down my leg. My arms, I have cubical tunnel in my arms, and they're weak at times, they hurt at times, and it's all part of this post-polio syndrome. Also, swallowing is starting to affect me because of the compression in my neck because of that. So I've seen one neurosurgeon, and I'm going to see another one on the 23rd, and we're going to talk as to what could possibly be done. But a lot of it is the pain, and then I'm also tired, fatigued, and I take vitamins. I mean, I eat my Wheaties in the morning, but so all that is starting to affect me. And I think it's more than just old age. I think it's, like they said, it's post-polio. And so that's another reason people should have and continue on with their vaccines for their children, as they should be. And hopefully we can stop this worldwide. And the Rotary Club has been wonderful. I don't know what to say. The International Rotary Club, to donate all their time and monies and efforts. And I don't want to see people ending up like this and having to go through what I'm going through. It's not disastrous, but it's not very pleasant, So, I wanted to say that how important it is for people to be aware of having the polio vaccine. And although it was eradicated here in the United States in 1979, it could still come back. There was a breakout in 2022 in New York City. It took them almost a year to get that under control. And I think a couple of people were paralyzed by that. I'm honored to be here with the Rotary Club, because that's what they're trying to profess, is to eradicate polio around the world. And I couldn't be more honored to help you guys with this. I hope that what I'm saying here has made an impact on people as to how important it is. And thank you, Miss Martin, for coming to my home. I appreciate it.